Hey guys, Jeff Scallon here. Since our infomercial's been out, we've been getting a number of emails asking me to talk about how I was injured and what happened to me, because we touch on that subject during the show. So I wanted to take a minute and go over what happened to me about 12 years ago now, because I remember when I was going through it all, I used to like watching videos of people that, underwent some injury, surgery, or the like, and were able to kind of come through it. And I hope this might be able to provide a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel if someone's going through a similar ordeal right now. So, like I said, about 12 years ago, now my life was one of sunshine and rainbows. My wife and I just had our first child, our oldest son, Vincent, and I felt like Superman. I was doing my master's over at Embry-Riddle in engineering physics. I was a TA and I was taking courses at the same time. And new father, I thought that I could lift the world up and take it on my shoulders. And I was in this very gym actually. This is my home gym, and I decided to do a workout for the morning, like I always do. But this time, again, kind of new father syndrome. I thought I'd throw some extra heavy weights on. And the exercise of choice was one-arm dumbbell rowing. Now, this was an exercise that I used to be very, very strong at. I would take a 120-pound dumbbell easy and do rows like that. I was just strong on the exercise. I hadn't done it probably in about 2 or 3 years though, so I figured I'd start light. And starting light for me was 80 pounds. That was my decision there, and it wasn't a very good one. Normally, when you do an exercise like that, or any exercise, you want to have your core very tight. Sometimes you'll even put a weight belt on. I didn't have a weight belt on, and I didn't have a very tight core. So I had my left knee up on a bench, this bench that I'm sitting on right now actually, and I started doing my one-arm dumbbell rows. Didn't have a tight core, no precautions, and right from the very first repetition, I already felt a burning in my lower back, right around L5-S1, and also in the left sacroiliac joint. Now right there, I could have stopped. I should have stopped. But new father again, and I thought I was macho, right? So no, I was too tough to stop. I was going to keep going, 2 reps, 3 reps, all the way up to I think 12 reps. And by the end of it, I finished the set. I stood up. Something was a little off, so I went and laid down, and then the next morning when I woke up, I could barely walk. So what had happened was I had torn my L5-S1 disc. It was already damaged, but I had torn it wide open, full thickness annular tear spreading 120 degrees posterior. Anyone that's had any type of back trauma, you know what I'm talking about. And then also the ligaments that hold my pelvis together, the sacroiliac ligaments, the ones that cross over from the sacrum to the ilia on the left side, I had torn them apart. So that started the journey of going to doctors, physical therapists. And we wanted to do things conservatively at first. So we did about, I didn't want to have surgery. So we really, I stopped my studies for a year and we focused on physical therapy. And after a year, it was no good. I had to go for the surgery. I had a microdiscectomy at L5-S1, and that got me to where I could sit again. Because before I couldn't even sit. It was like a nail just right pierced in my back. And then for my sacroiliac joint, we had some consultations with the surgeon there too, and their solution was, not surprising, was to put a bolt in it, right? And that I did not want to do. So what we came up with was the idea of using prolotherapy, which is a really cool technique. They inject a glucose solution into the ligaments with the idea and the goal of scarring the tissue. Now, ordinary people think scarring is bad, but in this case, the scarring will actually tighten up the loosened ligaments, the laxed ligaments. And that's exactly what happened for me. So it tightened things up a little bit, that, and with a lot of core stabilization, I was able to kind of become functional again, at least to a point. I was able to get back to my graduate studies and kind of limp forward through them. I will always remember, though, when I got back to the university, they had great big glass doors, and I could not for the life of me open them. Not because I was like missing the power to open them, but because when you have a pelvic injury, no matter how you're trying to apply force to something, from your upper body, from your lower body, everything gets translated through the pelvis. So if I tried to pull on the doors, those big heavy doors, to get them open, that force would be translated through my arms to my spine, and then down through my pelvis, and then my pelvis could twist, and I could have another month of physical therapy to look forward to. But I was limping through it, and the big event of the day, not the day, but the week rather, was walking around Target. So when I was really suffering before my surgery, the big event of the day was going to the mailbox. After my surgery, the big event of the week was walking around Target with my wife, pushing the shopping cart. But I was back in the game. I was finishing my studies, and that felt good, but it still felt like I just wasn't participating in life, and that was really damaging, because I was a pretty active guy, and now I would just go to class, and then I would come home and kind of lay down, because, I was functional, but kind of just functional, if you know what I mean. So, what was I going to do? It hurt. It hurt in here, and it hurt in here, because there were things that I wanted to do, but I couldn't. So I felt like I didn't have any goals, and what I eventually latched on to was, why not do a bodybuilding competition? This was something that's so crazy, so far-fetched given the situation I was in, that I thought it would be something really cool if I could accomplish it. So I set about doing that. I had flirted with the idea years ago, but I actually never ended up competing because I was more interested in strength and power and stuff like that. But this time I really set my mind on it, and I said, this is what I'm going to do, and maybe it'll get me even more functional afterwards. So that's what I did. I was able to train using pull-ups and dips for my arms, and the bicep, tricep, and then also for my back. And then the PecSculptor came in. That's where that came from, because I needed a way to train my chest, because I couldn't jump on the bench press like I had before my injury, because that would put too much stress on my lower back. And legs, I couldn't really do anything. I just walked for those, so my legs weren't very good. For my abs, I would do planks, and I would do bridges. So I couldn't do any crunches, anything that bends. I still can't bend over to tie my shoes. But that's what I was going to do for my abs, and then it was the diet. And I was eventually able to get in pretty good shape, and we went off to the show. And my goal wasn't to win. Well, it was, but for me, winning was just standing on stage and looking like I belonged there. Okay, so I didn't necessarily have to walk away with the first place trophy, but I wanted to look like I belonged on stage, because for me, this felt like, hey, look, I'm participating in life again. Okay, that was my rationale. And for me, it was psychologically, it was a wonderful thing. We went to the show, and I ended up scoring third place. Guy that scored first, I couldn't touch. Guy that scored second, I was pretty competitive with. I felt like in some places in my upper body, I had him, and in the lower body, I was completely outclassed. But a funny thing from that competition was, after the show, because you talk backstage, the guy that got second place, he came up to me, and he actually gave me his trophy. He was like, well, I know you've been through a lot, you really deserve this. And at first, I was like, whoa, cool, I got a second place trophy. The judge gave me third, he gave me his. I got a second place trophy. But then, you kind of look at it and you're like, so I went and found him, and I told him, hey, no, come on, you earned this, let me have the other one back. So we traded back. But the magazine that came out for that sanctioning body, it was the OCB, that's Organization of Competitive Bodybuilders. So their magazine, I can't remember if it was for the month or for the year, but it was actually my picture that ended up making the magazine rather than the people that placed ahead of me. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was just a really good picture. And that's the one that we have on the website and the one in the show. But anyway, I hope that answers some of the questions that have been coming our way. If you like this type of content, please give me a comment, shoot me an email, let me know. I'd like to include more things like this, because for me, I'm very passionate when it comes to coming back from injuries. That's how my product was born, really. And I'd like to keep doing some videos like this if people like it. So go ahead and hit subscribe.